think we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, welcome and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniela Labate Cavelli. I'm with NIAPRS, and today's presentation is called Peer Bridging, Fostering Hope for the Holidays. And I think something just happened to our screen. All right, so you'll see we're all in the festive mood. We've all got our creative holiday Zoom backgrounds going for you today to get us in the mood for today's webinar. We're joined today by the director of our Peer Services Division here at NIAPRS, and that's Ellen Helian. We've also got bridgers from Queens, and those bridgers are, those folks are Willetta Williams and Kevin Mark. And then we also have two of our bridgers from Binghamton, Ruth Casey and Kim Taro. So happy to have all of you with us today. Today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording and the PowerPoint will be posted on the NIAPRS website at www.niaprs.org after today's presentation. We're also offering continuing education credits for social workers, CPRPs, LMHCs, and OMH and OASAS certified peers. In order to qualify for continuing education units, you've got to be in the virtual room and not just dialed in on the phone. And we also ask that you return the evaluation that you'll receive. So everyone who participates in today's webinar will receive an evaluation, and we hope that you'll fill out that evaluation just to give us feedback, of course. But you'll also need to return that evaluation if you would like to receive CEs. And we need you to do that within 2 days, 48 hours of receiving it. We've got tons of folks on the line today. We've been offering CEs for all of our webinars. So we do have to put that deadline in just because, you know, we've got our office staff has to turn around and provide those CEs to you guys. We do want this webinar to be super dynamic and interactive. You're going to hear from our bridgers. We're going to talk a little bit about what NIAPRS Bridging is and our mission at NIAPRS, but we also want to hear from you. So feel free to use the chat box and connect with each other, you know, make comments on what you're hearing, ask questions. We've set aside some time at the end. We've got about 15 minutes set aside at the end for questions and answers with everyone here. So please feel free to use the chat box and chat into all panelists so that we can see what your questions are, and I'll be keeping track of those throughout. Also want to quickly remind you that we have another webinar scheduled for December 17th here at NIAPRS, and that webinar is called Laughter is the Best Medicine, Healing Through Humor, and our very own Larry Hochwald will be presenting that webinar, and that webinar is going to take place on December 17th from 1 to 2 p.m., and you can go onto the NIAPRS website to register for that one as well. As you can see, between today's offering and next week, we want to try to sort of give people all the tools that they can get to help them through the holidays. So we think laughter is really important around that too. All right, so with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Ellen to kick us off, and I'm going to be quiet now. Ellen?
Thanks, Daniela. So, hi. My name is Ellen Healy, and I am the Director of Peer Services for NIAPRS. And for those who may be new to NIAPRS, we want to just talk a little bit about, you know, who NIAPRS is. And NIAPRS is the state and national change agent that we're committed to improving the lives of people with mental health, substance abuse, and trauma-related challenges. You know, we do this by bringing our voices and our dedication to improving services, public policies, and social conditions, as well as promoting wellness, rights, recovery, with full community inclusion, so that all of us have the opportunity to achieve the maximum potential in our community of choice. The basic premise of bridging is that all people, regardless of the condition, have within them the capacity to recover, and that everyone has a right to try. And sometimes we forget that, right? We protect people so that they don't, you know, fall or they don't fail. It's and yet people not only have the right to try, that they have the right to fail too. But the bottom line is that we're with them. We've got their backs, and we'll support them through every try, and every try again and try again. We'll be there. The lens of the Peer Bridger is just that, what you see in front of you. We support people in the hospital. We support people getting out of the hospital. And then critical to that is helping people get the hospital out of them. So, and I think a lot of us see that when people identify themselves as patients, and we want to help people move that identity from patient to, you know, an individual fully included in their community. So some of the main ingredient to the Peer Bridger and the work that we do is really about the relationship. You know, that's the crux. That's where it all starts. And, you know, the Bridger is able to share about their own recovery based on the need of the person they work with. And that's with the purpose of support and sharing hope for recovery. And that provides people inspiration. So what kind of support, you know, do we offer people, especially during the holiday season? That's some of the things we're going to talk about today. But, you know, we all have stories. We all have lives and histories. And some of the things that we talk about with folks is, you know, what's going on in their community that they can get involved with. How do we help you identify and then access resources that you can use when you're having a tough time? You'll hear our panel really talking about planning ahead for the holidays and how important that is. You'll also hear them talking about taking care of yourself. And that's critical around this time too, because, you know, we kind of feel that at this time, people may be a little more vulnerable. So taking care of yourself is crucial at this point. And above all, we want to make sure people have a fun and safe activities for the season by, you know, wearing masks, using a hand sanitizer, and remaining socially distant from people. So we have a story here that, you know, like we said, we all have our stories, and sharing those stories is a way to inspire people. So I'd like Kim to share about Valerie, who really never quite enjoyed the holidays in all of her 69 years. So Kim, would you share Valerie's story with us?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Well, Valerie is a 69-year-old female, and she was a self-referral. I have been working with her or matched up with her since April. I've known Valerie for a number of years. And when she reached out to me, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. She had not talked to anyone in 6 weeks. And she was feeling so depressed. She lives alone, and she has very little contact with her family. She was adopted. She has no siblings, and she does have 4 daughters, but she gave them up when they were very small. So she has no close friends, and she's a bit of a loner, and she really has a lot of difficulty asking for help, and she tends to isolate. So since we've been working together, one of the goals has been to reach out more and to build up her support network. Valerie hasn't celebrated the holiday in years. She usually spends them alone. And we've been talking a lot about what she could do different this year and how she could make the holidays the way she wants them to be for her. And I shared with her about how I love decorating and that I decorate all of the rooms in my house. And I was sharing with her that I was really excited about getting my tree. And she was with me when I got my tree. And I think she was surprised. She couldn't understand why I would, living alone, why I would decorate my house and why I would get a tree. And I said, because I do it for me. It makes me feel better. And I enjoy it. So after this conversation, I started thinking, and over Thanksgiving, I found a little tree that was all decorated and it had little lights on it. And I thought this would be perfect, for her, and she could set it on a tabletop. So I decided to get it, and I called her up and told her I had something for her, and I took it over to her. And she was thrilled, she was really surprised. And later on that evening, she called me to let me know how much she appreciated what I had done. And she thanked me for all of the support that I had been giving her. And she also called to tell me that she loved her little Christmas tree, that she had it on, the lights were on, and she was really enjoying it. And after that conversation, I sensed a real change in her attitude. So since that's happened, she went to a thrift store, bought herself a Christmas music CD that she's been listening to. She also bought herself a little pair of blue snowflake earrings that she's worn ever since she got them. And she bought herself a necklace at the dollar store that has bells that she likes to jingle. And she told me that she's feeling a lot less depressed. And one of the things, as I said, she was a bit of a loner. She has actually started to engage with peers that live in her neighborhood, that live right across the street from her. And she's exchanged numbers with a couple of them. So it's just amazing to me how a little $10 Christmas tree and peer support could make such a difference in her life.
Thanks, Kim. I think that's an excellent example of how important the work we do is, and I'm hoping Valerie has a great holiday this year. So I'd like to actually, when we talk about how we support those we work with at NIAPRS as a peer bridger, I was looking to see if Willetta could share a little bit about how she helps folks prepare for the holidays, especially with the added stress of COVID. Willetta?
Oh yeah, I like to share, how I help them. The people here at Creedmoor are alone. Some of them don't have families and stuff that contact them during the holidays. So it's important to keep them connected to the supports that they have. If they've attended AA meetings or NA meetings or have supports on Clubhouse, you try to, personalize the resources and create a plan to use them and practice them, like making phone calls or asking to receive phone calls from sponsors or people that they've met at these meetings and other places. So when they feel down, they can get a call. And we also help folks create an opportunity to engage with other people, plan a movie night with some of your roommates in the building that you live in, a movie night, a dinner, plan a meal so that others, don't feel that they're alone also. Some folks cheer themselves up by decorating. We spoke about that, decorating their home, making homemade cookies, and or greeting cards to mail to your families and friends. That really, really, lifts other people's spirits. Also, you can play music, and my go-to thing is listening to music and knitting and crocheting and things like that. Just stay engaged and don't forget the connections that you've made before the holidays because they'll get you through the holidays.
Thanks, Willetta. Thanks. And there's some great points in there about, the connections you make to practice making those phone calls before you need them. Because I think we've all had the experience of when we really get down in the dumps or we're stressed or whatever, we're not comfortable making that first call at that point. So if somebody sits for the phone and call some supports. Kevin, you also have some input about how we can share and support the people we work with. Would you like to share a little bit about that, please?
Sure. Again, everything comes back to my own experience and how I deal with situations. In this case, I would say about going to a holiday party or gathering. And the idea again is to prepare. When you go to these events, what's going to help you? Obviously, this time of year with the pandemic, I would probably tell people to bring gloves, masks, hand sanitizer for themselves before they go. And it is that when you get there, obviously you'll be greeting people with fist bumps or elbow bumps, to kind of keep everything safe. And for me, who's someone who's autistic or someone who deals with sensory issues, who feels like overwhelmed or gets anxiety, or even with voices, for me, I think about I'm going to a place and I want to have an opportunity to deal with any kind of overwhelm that I experienced at the event. So I look for a place where I can go if I feel that way. And that could be a bathroom, it could be a coat room, and I can also sometimes bring like a book with me or a comic book. And if I'm in an event and all of a sudden I start to feel overwhelmed, I feel a little anxious, or I just start to kind of not really handle the situation too well, I can go to a bathroom for a moment, take a deep breath, for a few breaths. I can try to do like a body scan meditation. If I have a comic book, I can read it for like maybe 5 minutes. And then if I really feel more overwhelmed, I can also go outside. I can say, okay, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I'm gonna go outside and take a break. And this time of year, I find the cold air is very grounding. So again, I can just, a few minutes and then take that breath. And also, as my coworker, Bernice was saying, that if you happen to hear her voices, having like some instrumental music on when you're someplace, just to kind of deal with the voices you're dealing with, it can really calm your situation down, a little bit as well. So again, these are just about getting prepared, and then realizing that if you feel a certain way, you can just take a break for a minute, and that allows you to deal with the party better. You can go back after you feel a little bit more relaxed.
Thanks, Kevin. And you bring up some great ideas, and something I thought about while you were talking is that while we can prepare ourselves to go into an event, a lot of us are hosting events. A lot of us may be having, a family meal or a little gathering and things like that. And maybe we need to check for ourselves as the host, is there a space where people could just go there if they needed to have that time out kind of thing? Do we have that? If it's just thinking about, so if people are allergic to dogs, what do? We get the dogs out of there before people come over. Or if they have a nut allergy, we make sure there's an alternative to the nut bread, So it's the same kind of thing here. If we know that, with people that are coming to our home or coming to the gathering place might need a little space to breathe and relax. If it's too overwhelming, that we could provide that for them already. So thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. So, part of, for all of us, just as human beings, connection is so important. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody's kind of conditions or issues or anything else. It's studied for ages, right? That people need people. I think Barbara Streisand said that. But anyway, so so it's really important that we pay attention to how we help people create that community and create that connection. And I think, Ruth, you shared with me over the months how that happens and how you help people make that happen. So I wonder if you could share a little bit about that now.
Yes, with some of the people I work with, to knowing the community during this holiday, I take them out shopping so they can go shopping for their foods for the holiday. Not only shopping for their food. I take them to the individual I'm working with, Chris. He belongs to a church now, and with him volunteering at this church, they're preparing dinners and meals for people that does not have food or things like that to eat. And the other thing he's helping, volunteering, handing out gloves and mittens to other people that are in need, and hats and gloves for this winter coming. And talk about the community. In the community, we have like a Natsananga Park. Take advantage of enjoying those lights in your community, driving around, enjoying them. And Animal Adventure too, if you have zoos around, enjoy some of the zoo, because not only they have animals, they have holiday lights hooked up. And then not only that, they have Santa Claus for the young kids to sit and enjoying Santa Claus, because the young kids enjoy that. And we too have Robeson Center that has beautiful decorated trees that are in the community that anybody can go enjoy. And it's culture. It's tons of different trees about different cultures. And upstairs has the train village. You can enjoy the train, and it's all decorated for the cities and stuff like that. And not only that, if people don't have cars, they can go for a walk, enjoy the community that has the lights in the community with just walking and enjoying the lights. And not only that, too, in knowing your surroundings in your community, because our community has meals for Christmas Day. They can call the hotline on the meals, and they will deliver the meals. If somebody can't come and pick them up, they can go and deliver them. You may call that hotline. They'll deliver to the older people. And people that are
Okay, thanks. And my video kind of snapped out of there for a second. Did you talk about the high schools, the concerts they have in the high schools? Or did I miss that?
No, I forgot to talk about that. But the high school does have, up in the mall, is having their bands for playing holiday music. They are doing that. But they still recommend you stay 6 feet apart, wear a mask, and be safe.
Great. Okay. Let's see if I'm frozen here. Okay, all right. Are we back? Okay. Okay, thanks, Ruth. That's it's a lot of activity that, if people can just check in at their local schools and, see what they're offering and whatnot. And again, I'm glad you included also Ruth to, wear a mask, have the hand sanitizer available to you. We can really sometimes enjoy so much that we forget about the COVID, although we may like to, but it still exists, and we have to take care of ourselves in that way. So, but thank you. And we all know that there are a lot of people that we know or work with, that, or ourselves even, that really feel lonely during the season. And sometimes you can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. So we all understand that. And I've asked Kim to really talk about how we can help individuals work through those feelings. Kim?
Well, I think one of the ways, this would be a good time to talk about RAP. And for those of you who don't know what WRAP is, it's a Wellness Recovery Action Plan. It was developed by Mary Ellen Copeland, and she has on her website, there is a great wellness guide to overcoming isolation during COVID-19. It's about being connected, staying connected, and choosing connection. And there's also, she also has WRAP for the Holidays with Mary Ellen Copeland, adapting WRAP for the holidays with her. And these two websites, we will show the link at the end of the webinar. But for most of the people that I work with do have a WRAP, but you can adapt, you know, I think especially at this time of the year, Christmas, you can actually adapt your WRAP so that it's, you know, for the holidays. So one of the things with your WRAP, you want to know your wellness tools. You know, and WRAP is a great tool to, you know, to use to stay well. And with your wellness tools, these are things that you do to stay well and to make yourself feel better, such as healthy eating, getting fresh air, you know, maybe listening to music, positive affirmations. I'm a big one for that. I love to read my affirmations in the morning. That really is very helpful to me. And so triggers could be loneliness, disappointment, past events. Maybe some of your past Christmases haven't been so good, so you're not looking forward to this one. Another thing would be, you know, getting some bad news. So in order, you know, to prepare for that, for these things, one of the things that you might want to do is volunteer. That's a good way to get out of yourself and to become the helper rather than the helpee. And some of the things that you might consider are going to a nursing home and visiting with some of the elderly patients or reading to them. A couple other things that you might want to do is Meals on Wheels, you know, volunteering for that. Community meals and soup kitchens, volunteering to help serve or help prepare to-go meals for folks. Animal shelters, you know, it isn't just people who are alone at Christmas time. Animals are too. And the shelters are always asking for people to come and volunteer, you know, to walk dogs or, you know, just spend a little bit of time with animals. Another thing that's really, really important is that self-care. You know, it's to you know, taking good care of yourself, making sure again that you're getting enough rest, that you're eating healthy. But not only that, do some fun things, you know, get creative. Oh gosh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. You know, being creative, going out, looking at Christmas trees and Christmas lights. And just because you don't have a car doesn't mean you can't do that. Ask a friend, say, come on, let's get on the bus and take a ride. Look at the lights. That's another thing that you can do. It's really important to be good to yourself. So along with, you know, you might want to connect with people, maybe invite somebody over, prepare a meal with somebody, maybe, you know, watch a movie at the house, a Christmas movie at the house with someone. And also, you know, reaching out to people who might not be doing well or who have experienced a significant loss over, you know, during the year. You know, it's been a rough year for so many people. And I know for me, when I reach out to others, it kind of takes me out of myself and I feel like I'm doing something good for someone. Oh, let's see, some other things. When you're not doing so well, you know, and it's okay to not be okay. This is when you want to use your supports. You want to use those warm lines. You want to, you know, if you have substance abuse issues, a lot of people at this time of the year, they struggle with that. You want to use those NA and those AA supports. And sometimes you just need to take a break, and that's okay. And some, you know, you might want to consider maybe going into crisis respite if your community has one. You might want to think about staying with a friend, or if you have a little extra money, staying in a motel or a hotel for the night. You know, just to take a break and get away. And again, as I said, honor your feelings. And know that it's okay to not be okay, and reach out to your family, reach out to your friends, let them know that you're not doing so well, and ask for that extra support. Maybe you're not able to cook for yourself. Ask somebody, you know, would you mind fixing a meal for me? I'm just not able to do that right now, and it's okay to do that. So those are just some things that you do.
That's awesome, Kim. Thank you so much. That's a lot of really good stuff. And I love that Mary Ellen Copeland is providing some free tools around COVID and around the holidays, as well as her webinar that's on her website. So, and that's to help people in this season. So that's really great. Thank you. Thank you. So we've heard a lot about how we can help people enjoy the season and keep themselves well. And part of helping people to do that is sharing part of our own story and our own little traditions around how we get through the holidays. So I've asked the Peer Bridges to kind of share how their little traditions, because we all have them, right? Our habits or ways to get through things. So I've asked each of them to kind of share their own tools about how they work through the holidays. So Kevin, would you kick us off?
Sure, no problem. Yeah, again, our job is based upon the fact that we have our own lived experiences and we found our own ways of dealing with things. I guess Pat Deegan calls that personal medicine, you know, ways that we've developed to cope. And for me, dealing with things like isolation or loneliness, I've developed my own kind of ideas about how I deal with that. And for me, I think one of the biggest things I do is leave the house. And basically for me, I find that I love going on New York City trains, you know, even during this time. But of course, I have my masks, my hand sanitizer, you know, and gloves to bring with me. And basically what it is, I happen to find reading a book or a comic book on the train for an hour or something, just going on there, and just, you know, I feel, you know, I'm not being disturbed. People just kind of leave me alone, and I can just kind of deal with the fact that I'm going to be around people with noise, you know, people going to be chatting, talking, you know. I can also just watch and see how people are, you know, people watching while I'm there on the train. And then also the train, I usually get off at some stop, and I like going to Union Square Park. New York has a lot of parks. And so for me, again, I just leave the house, I go to a park, I can people watch, I can hang out and see how people are doing. Some people are dancing, listening to music. And right now, this time of year, I mentioned to people that Bryant Park has this ice skating ring that you can visit. You know, obviously it costs money to skate, but I just go there just to hang out, listen to the music, see everyone excited, happy, you know, out with the kids and stuff, skating around, you know, in the park. They also have pop-up stores for the holiday, so I can see what, you know, all the different decorations and the foods and the clothing people are selling. And also, I can also bring music with me if I want to, you know, just hang out there. And if I'm in the area, I can also get some food. So again, I can go to a park, have some food, people watch for a while. Also, I like going to Union Square Park on Fridays. They have something called Legendary Ciphers, which is basically an event where people gather around, even now with masks on, and they deal with like a rap contest. Someone puts out some beats, and people start rapping. And this is every Friday. I tell the people that I work with about it. If they want to go out, it's available. Just to get out of where they are. Also, one of the things I do, I want to talk to people about, getting out in the community. I often tell people, hey, why don't you go to a museum? I probably told 1,000 people, hey, go see a museum. New York has a lot of museums. Well, about 3 weeks ago, someone finally took me up on my offer and said, yeah, I want to go to the museum. And they did the research. They found out that it was open, found out what you got to do. And we even checked the fact that you can use your New York ID to pay your own price to get in the museum. So we went to the museum, had a great time, got out of surroundings just to kind of break monotony. And that was basically kind of the way that I kind of deal with dealing with loneliness and isolation, and I bring out the people who I work with. One of the things about peer bridging is that we don't tell people what to do. We provide them with options, and they can say, yeah, sure. Or they can say, nah, it's not for me. And whatever it is that their choice is, that's what we go with, So that's kind of the thing about it. And on occasion, you get people who would like to go to museums,
Great, Kevin. Thank you. Thank you so much. One of the things I love, Kevin, when you talk about this stuff is that, you're a bit of a foodie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
And you shared before how you like to go to all the, the food trucks and try different things and stuff like that, which is another, kind of fun activity. So, but thank you. Well, I'd like to see if you would like to share a little bit about how your experience helps others.
Oh, sure. I help people because I have to deal with anxiety and depression and past traumas, and I find it important and good to recognize when you could be in possible situations that could trigger yourself. It's important to know if you're going to be in crowds, and especially with COVID, the way things are going now, if you're going to be in a crowd, you have to remember your mask. You have to remember social distancing, and that increases anxiety in people. So remember that before you go out, make sure you take your medication. You can do, I do self-talk, like things are going to be okay. You're safe, wear your mask. Deep breathing is also another technique that I use and I suggest other people to use, because that calms you down and that grounds you. If you need to count, you can count. But also, I attend a 12-step group, and one day I was talking to someone and they said, well, if you were in that situation, why didn't you call me? You can call somebody and talk for a few minutes. And you can always say the serenity prayer. That will get you through. And when you're feeling down and depressed, listening to music will always get you, it works for me, will always get you in the mood.
Thanks, Willetta. Appreciate that. So, when we talk about struggling through the holidays and dealing with COVID, we also then think about, our own home being kind of invaded by people, right? Even though we may have invited them, but we have family. And and we all develop little coping traditions, these little things that we've tried and seem to work for us during the holidays. So I've asked Ruth if she would share her experience with her tradition as far as keeping herself well.
Yes, how I keep myself well on Christmas Eve, it starts it all. We do music. I do Christmas presents that day with some friends and other families. But after that, after I get done with that celebration, I go into the bathroom, I light a candle, and I cry. And it's a mixture of sad cry, happy cry. and the candle I light is for the people I have lost over the years and now and stuff. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with crying. But then after I get done, I put myself all together. I go back out into the front room, enjoy the Christmas trees. I put music on. I start wrapping all my Christmas gifts at the very last minute because I enjoy at the last minute. And then after I get done doing all that, I get ready for Christmas with a Christmas dinner I put on for the whole family and everybody. And that's how I get along and recognizing myself and my feelings. So, yeah.
Thanks, Ruth. I appreciate that. And I know, because Kim has talked to me about this, but I know she has a bit of a tradition herself, Kim, that I just love it. I just love it. So Kim, would you please share with everybody?
Sure. I love Christmas. It's also, my birthday is right around Christmas too. So one of the things that I do on Christmas Eve is, well, I guess it started when I was young. We used to get a pair of pajamas and slippers every Christmas Eve. And so I've kind of carried on that tradition. So every year I buy myself a pair of Christmas pajamas. And on Christmas Eve, I put on my pajamas. I light my Christmas tree up. I light a candle. I put on some Christmas music. And usually wait until one of the Christmas movies comes on. I make myself a cup of hot cocoa, and then I sit and I cry. And there's, I have some past traumas that happened around Christmas, actually. So some of my tears are sad tears. I also lost my parents in the same year, a few years ago, and I was very close to them. So, there's sad tears, but there's always tears of joy as well. And it's a time of reflection for me. And I love Christmas Eve. And like Ruth, I usually wait until the last minute to wrap all my gifts and things like that. And I love that, what Willetta shared about the serenity prayer. I use that so often. It helps me a lot. And the breathing and like that, and tapping. I'm a tapper as well. So, one of the last things that I do before I go to bed on Christmas Eve is I put out my plate of cookies and a glass of milk for Santa, because I still believe in Santa Claus. And I will tell you that in the morning when I wake up, some of the milk is gone and there's usually a bite out of one of the cookies. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Kim. I love it. And I think we can all connect to all of you. I think everybody, whether they have a condition or not, can connect with each of you on some level. So I thank you for sharing that and sharing it with the people that we work with. And, this time of year, and especially this year with COVID and those stressors, this time of year can be hard for people, and hard for everybody. But everyone in our world, it doesn't have to be a condition. Like I said, just, it's just, that's what the holidays bring with it as well. But just finding just a little bit of joy, a little bit of promise for the future and hope really help us live with the fear and the sadness so many of us feel in the world right now, So the goal for us is to smile just a little, to chuckle a little, and to bring a little light to someone else, And I do see that we have a lot of comments and questions that, Daniela, are you overwhelmed there? Are you okay that you're juggling all these?
I'm keeping track over here.
Well, we're gonna let you know.
Yep. So I've been keeping track, lots and lots of stuff coming into the chat box throughout. Really good comments, some questions as well. So I want to actually, I've jotted down some of the comments that I want to share just because I think they're pretty powerful. And I think that, if you're not able to keep up with the chat box, I want to make sure that everyone sort of can benefit from hearing what each other has to say. So there was a comment in here about someone wanted to mention that these challenges are not only faced by adults, but also by transition age youth who live in OMH residential programs. And often they have histories of institutional care and they're in residential settings and they don't have this opportunity to reunify with their families. So a lot of what was said during the webinar today by our Bridgers is also true of the transition age youth population. So we wanted to say that as well. And they loved the example that you gave us of Valerie. Some examples about coping skills and coping mechanisms, things to put in our toolbox, using music as a grounding and calming tool, finding a separate or space that's a little bit safe and separate from people. And also something in the chat box I saw was about connecting in a safe manner during COVID, which can be really challenging. But lots of folks were typing in, human interaction is really crucial. There's so many great ways we can try to stay connected. Somebody mentioned, hosting a virtual meal on Zoom. Everybody sort of prepares their own Christmas dinner or holiday dinner and gets together on Zoom to share that together. Someone mentioned that their office is actually holding a virtual office holiday party, which they're going to be finding to be really helpful because it's a way for them to connect with each other as far as staff connecting with staff as well, which is just as crucial, right? Connection, no matter who we are, is really important, I think. Let's see. Someone's starting rap training next week, so that's cool. And mailing out. So we were talking about volunteering and how we can get involved in the community. Someone had mentioned volunteering at a soup kitchen, mailing out holiday cards to folks in nursing homes is a way to cheer other people up and sort of feel that connection with someone. Calling people who live alone and isolate and giving them a call so that can promote a sense of purpose for both folks. Someone from the Capital Region typed in that the food bank in the Capital Region here takes volunteers all the time, and it doesn't have to have a regular volunteer schedule. You can just do it sort of whenever you feel like it. So that's a nice way to connect with other people as well. We did have a few questions, and once I sort of start asking these questions of our panel, I'll go back in because I see other folks are chatting in as I speak here. But we had a few questions, so I want to get to those. The first question we had was, how much disclosure should you tell someone about getting through the holidays? So what do you guys think about that?
Does anybody want to chime in?
Sure, I guess, yeah. I guess the idea is that the idea of disclosing anything about your experience is always as much as the person needs possibly to connect with it. Sometimes it's just acknowledging, yeah, I've been through that, something like that. Sometimes they might share something that's a little bit more personal with more details. And you got to be aware that, you're there just to provide kind of some similarities, but you don't always have to be as detailed or graphic in what you've been through. Again, it's meeting the person where their level is at and what you feel they might need, but never too much, because too much detail might be triggering to them. I guess how I would answer that.
That was a great
agree
answer, Kevin. That was great.
And I think
I think that's true. Go ahead, Willetta.
I was just going to say, I think we all learned how to tell our story, in a manner that meets the person where they're at.
Right. And I think anytime we're sharing with someone, we always need to keep in the forefront is that we're sharing to help the individual, not to just tell our story. So we always have to keep the individual we're working with front and center.
All right, so let's move on to the next question. So this person chatted in, I'm hearing a lot of good community ideas. However, during the current rise in COVID cases, the CDC does not recommend in-person gatherings. They suggest that you don't have people over to your house or limit the number of people that you do have to those folks that you live with in your own household. So there seems to be a little bit of a contradiction here with CDC recommendations. So I felt it was really important to address this because we don't want anyone to think that we're sort of saying go out and host huge parties. But I think it is important for folks to understand the settings in which the Bridgers work with. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that and how we could be safe in a social in a safe way.
Yeah, and I think that's correct. You know, we do need to look at how we're, like, even with Kevin on the train, you know, and Kevin's making sure there's plenty of space between him and another person. And the trains have seats blocked off the same, you know, as buses. And when you're outside in the community, you have more control over the space that you have between people. And like we said, you always wear your mask. And when we think about inviting somebody over, normally you would invite somebody over that you're in a lot of contact with, you know, that you know each other. So to ask each other some questions like, have you been around anybody that tested positive for COVID? You know, you have you checked your temperature or any of those kind of questions, that it's okay. And it's responsible actually to ask each other those questions so that when you come over, that person knows where you've been and what kind of risk you may be. And we have an obligation to tell people, listen, you know, I was at this place and there was a lot of people there that I couldn't distance from. So I want you to know that, you know, so we have to work it out. You know, I mean, I'll tell you right now that just yesterday, you know, I got a text from my niece and she says, oh, I'm coming up from Georgia with her kids and, you know, maybe we'll get to see each other. And I immediately went to, well, wait a second, you just can't show up at the door. You know, there's some things you have to do. And, you know, if I've got people in my house that are compromised, so she was going to my mother's and I'm like, my mother is 86 years old. She's really compromised. So we need to make a plan. So yes, it's very much at the forefront. And we have a responsibility to each other to flesh that out whenever we're coming together.
Absolutely. And I think it's okay to say, you know, when was the last time you were COVID tested? I mean, for us here at NIAPRS, you know, we're in New York State and our state was one that was hit pretty hard. And you're right, you know, the numbers are going up and we should be getting tested periodically and regularly. You know, just because we may not have symptoms doesn't mean we can't test positive. So I think we need to be vigilant about that. And also, you know, folks have roommates or they live in congregate settings where they're with the same people all the time. So I think if you're, you know, with your, what do they call it, with your pod, you know, people that sort of have made the plan from the beginning, and that if you're going to be with each other and not outside of your pod, then it's sort of safe to be around. That's one school of thought. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't really know, but I know that's a thing. So, you know, that's something else for us to kind of look at, I guess, when we're talking about. Other stuff that came in the chat box, one way to sort of be social without being social or without being in the same space as people. Somebody said, bake some cookies and leave them at your neighbor's doorstep, which I thought was really nice. I would like for my neighbors to bake me cookies. Neighbors, if you're listening. Lots of fun things for the holidays. The holiday Zoom activities. I know that NA and AA are on Zoom these days as well. So if folks have access to the internet, that's another good resource. Somebody typed in, to honor those that you cannot be with. They've started to send a gift to an organization or a small business that they are familiar with and that they enjoy being with, just to let them or their family members know that it was in their name. And I think that's a really cool thing to do too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's see, there was something. Oh, right. Virtual meals, virtual gifts. People were actually sending virtual hugs while our bridgers were talking, which I thought was awesome. Making a gratitude list to help somebody here to focus on the positives of what they've done in their life. That's another really awesome idea. So keep it coming in the chat box. You guys have some really awesome ideas here. And I think that's, you know, at the beginning of this, Ellen was talking about what peer bridging is and what we do at NIAPers. And I think what you all are doing in the chat box is a really great example, because we are offering support to each other and giving ideas to each other here, which is definitely needed at the holidays. And I would say definitely needed now more than ever, because of what's going on in our world. So I'm going to take a quick second here and just see the chat box. People are mentioning, thank you, happy holidays, awesome, okay. There are no new questions. We have about 2 minutes left. Ellen, if you want to just flip to the next slide, I'd like to show folks the resources page. Cool, thank you. So these are the resources that we were talking about, the Wellness Guide to Overcoming Isolation During COVID. There's a website here, and there's also the wrap for the holidays link for that website as well. Like I said, these resources, the PowerPoint and the recording, will be posted on the NIAPers website. Somebody had chatted in the chat box about how do you get continuing ed credits, so I'll just to review that real quick before we end. You will be receiving an evaluation link to the email that you used to register for today's offering. We ask that you complete that evaluation and send that back within 48 hours so that you can get your continuing ed credits. And then one last shameless plug before I say thank you to everyone. December 17th, we have another webinar with our very own Larry Hockwald, who's one of our trainers for New York City and Long Island. And he is going to be hosting a webinar called Laughter is the Best Medicine, Healing Through Humor. So encourage all of you to attend that and sign up to attend that as well. I want to give a really, really cool virtual hug. I'm virtually hugging all of our presenters today. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of your stories and all of your hope with everyone and all the work that you've been doing. So I want to say thanks to Ellen, Ruth, Kim, Kevin, and of course, Willetta. And I wish everyone on the phone or on the internet with us today a happy and a healthy holiday, and hope that you all stay well. Thank you so much.
Be well. Thank you, Danielle.